Ukraine calls it Operation Spiderweb, a sweeping drone assault in June deep inside Russia. More than 100 drones struck air bases across 5 time zones.
Unprecedented attack on Russia. Let's look at what Ukraine did on June the 1st and how it was done. Russia says air bases in 5 regions were targeted, but the planes were only damaged in 2.
In the early hours before dawn, strange movement lit up the skies over the Black Sea. No jets, no helicopters, just dozens of dark, silent shapes drifting across the radar horizon. At first, Russian air defense systems scanned them with passive curiosity. Then panic spread, fuel depots ignited, command towers went dark, MiG fighters exploded on the tarmac. By the time Moscow confirmed what had happened, it was already too late. Ukraine had struck deep behind enemy lines, and they hadn't used human pilots to do it. What had just unfolded wasn't a manned airstrike or a kamikaze drone raid. It was something entirely new, a battlefield algorithm in motion, a self-thinking system coordinating machines in real time, without a single human issuing the command. This wasn't just retaliation, it was a signal to the world. A demonstration of how modern warfare is being rewritten, not by missiles, but by code. It had a name, Operation Spiderweb. The setup had been months in the making. Ukrainian engineers, backed by Western defense AI firms, had been training a next-gen neural network to command drone swarms without real-time input. Why? Because Russia's electronic warfare systems were jamming traditional signals. Manual piloting was no longer viable. Ukraine needed drones that could think for themselves. The result was a program quietly known inside the Ukrainian MOD as ARANET, Autonomous Response Architecture. It's a distributed combat AI. Each drone runs its own brain. But the network learns as a whole. And on July 19th, Ukraine gave it a mission: disrupt Russian air power, cut off launch capacity, expose weaknesses in their southern defenses. So, how did Spiderweb unfold? The swarm launched from over a dozen covert locations. Some were catapulted from modified trucks. Others launched from hidden rail containers. Each drone had one task. But the swarm's behavior changed in real time. If one unit was shot down, the rest adjusted. If a radar locked on, the swarm split. If a target moved, it followed. And no one in Kyiv was piloting it. The ARANET had full command. It routed some drones as decoys, others circled to wait for radar gaps. And when the timing was right, they hit, in coordinated waves. At least 4 Russian airfields were damaged. Saki Air Base in Crimea, Yeysk Airfield near the Sea of Azov, Taganrog Central Airfield, Jankoy Airstrip, used for refueling and logistics. Satellite footage shows hangars collapsed, MiG-31 fighters burned, and dozens of personnel scrambling without power. Russia's defense ministry called it a terrorist drone provocation. But behind closed doors, it was clear this wasn't random. It was surgical, and worse, it couldn't be stopped. At the heart of the strike was ARANET's adaptive targeting model. Instead of locking onto a single GPS coordinate, each drone carried a multi-layered sensor system. FLIR, infrared for heat signatures, IDAR for real-time terrain mapping, optical object recognition trained on Russian vehicles, passive radar sniffing to detect broadcast and jamming patterns. All of it processed on board, no need for uplinks, no delay. That meant every drone was a hunter, not a bullet, a decision maker. And the Spiderweb operation went further. Some drones left behind sensor beacons, others deployed nano UAVs to continue surveillance. One even hovered over a military convoy, then detonated only when it reached a fuel truck. Every step, calculated, every move, autonomous. This wasn't just about damage, it was about proving something: Ukraine could strike anywhere, and Russia might never see it coming. The global response was immediate. NATO leaders praised Ukraine's innovation. The US Department of Defense confirmed it had supported some of the AI training simulations, but denied operational involvement. Israel's IAI said they were studying the strike pattern for their own drone network developments. Meanwhile, Russian analysts sounded the alarm. This wasn't just a loss of equipment, it was a collapse in confidence, an entire layer of air defense, defeated by AI. They now face a future where traditional perimeter defense means nothing, where an enemy algorithm can find every weak point before a human even sees the threat. And other countries took notice. Turkey accelerated work on its AI-enabled Bayraktar swarm program. South Korea launched a new initiative to integrate AI control into its KUSFT unmanned systems. India doubled funding for its Akashtir project to extend its autonomy into strike capabilities. But there's another layer to this story, because Spiderweb may not have been the end of Ukraine's autonomous ambitions. In the days following the strike, new satellite images showed the deployment of relay drones, large, slow-flying systems positioned at high altitudes. Their role wasn't to strike, it was to serve as airborne AI routers, allowing multiple swarms to synchronize over vast distances without needing ground control. It means Spiderweb wasn't just a mission, it was a rehearsal for something much larger. Ukrainian defense sources have hinted that ARANet is now being trained on maritime threats, which suggests the Black Sea could be the next battlefield. AI-powered sea-skimming drones capable of hunting Russian warships from multiple vectors. If land strikes stun the Russian Air Force, sea attacks could cripple their naval dominance. This level of autonomy raises an uncomfortable question for the world. What happens when autonomous drones are wrong? What if a system misidentifies a refugee convoy as a military target? What if it's fed bad data, or worse, manipulated by an adversary? These aren't just hypotheticals. They're risks being debated by military ethics councils in Brussels, Washington, and Tel Aviv. Because as AI weapons spread, the question won't just be, what can they hit? It'll be who's responsible when they do. But for Ukraine, the urgency outweighs the caution. Against a much larger force, it has turned to intelligence, software, and machine autonomy as its shield, and its sword, and it's working. Because the battlefield is changing faster than treaties can keep up, and with every silent flight, every unpiloted strike, the world moves one step closer to wars that humans no longer control. And when the next swarm rises, when the next Operation Spiderweb is launched, there may be no warning, no voice on the radio, just the sound of air splitting open, and then silence.